Why don't you want me to sew? Scale. Okay. Hello, my historical fashion friends, and welcome to this episode where I make a medieval hood based off of a pattern in Medieval Garments Reconstructed and become an actual cottagecore pumpkin, like my friend here. I was really inspired by Miss Joss on Instagram, so you will have to go check her out because, number one, she makes really amazing garments, and number two, she did an orange kirtle and a green hood, and I just was obsessed with it. And because fall is coming to a close, I wanted to squeeze the most autumn energy out of it by becoming an actual real-life pumpkin. So, let's get to the construction for my quest to become the ultimate cottagecore pumpkin. The pattern I chose for this was based off of museum number 10,602. This had a long process of adapting the pattern from the draft version that is in here, which is a 1:5 scale. 2 millimeters equals 1 centimeter. But of course, I live in the United States, so I don't use centimeters, which means I had to go through another step. And in order to avoid having to convert centimeters, I just ended up using my ruler to measure out the example pattern here and then multiply everything times 5. So I've got a bunch of numbers written on here. Then I use my little grid, and I'm going to post a very short episode on how I make these grids for my fabric that I have using Excel or Google Sheets. I use Google Sheets because I don't have Microsoft Office. But this helps me because I can see exactly how much I have in the fabric in a grid pattern, and then I just plan it out. So now I am transferring my pattern from the grid to the paper. I'm using newspaper to create the pattern, and I am using my ruler to mark out the full space that I'll need and then creating the pattern within those parameters. I did some freehanding with this, and I used the ruler to mark out the major points where I had the measurements for, using the template from the book and my personal measurement adjustments. And I used a string around this marker tip to sort of create a compass in order to create a smooth circular edge at the edge of the gore. Looking back now, I think that the diagram in the book had the back of the hood less flush with the end of the neck hole opening, and I think that's probably where I went wrong in measuring. It probably should have come in a lot more. And now I'm using the pattern to transfer the hood onto my mock-up fabric. And I didn't do a pattern piece for the leer pipe because it is just a rectangle. And I cut that on the fold, so I had one less seam to do. Here I am using my miniature smoky cat as a paperweight. I didn't include the seam allowance in the measurements, so I drew the seam allowance on with my chalk pencil. So yes, I did make a mock-up, and the mock-up turned out very large, which made me think that this hood was definitely made for a man, probably a short and stocky man or a tall and short-necked man, because as you'll see here, I have a very long neck. Okay, so I am trying on my mock-up of this hood. I don't know. It almost seems like the hood is like too wide. Maybe not, or maybe just the leer pipe is so heavy it's like way dragging it down. The face opening seems a little small, but it might just be that like my neck, because it's like curving up, and so it might not be as bad if it's turned over. But I think my neck is really long, and that sort of made the rest of it not sit right, because I forgot I have like a really long neck. So I might adjust this because I feel like, you know, this gore is supposed to be kind of on my shoulders, but this seems like too big, but the head seems too small. Like it should be like skinnier and longer somehow. And so I ended up having to adapt this pattern by lengthening it and kind of squishing it up. So it is not an exact reproduction of the original because it just didn't look good on me, and I would assume that they individually made their hoods to themselves, not per a pre-made pattern per se. Now I am transferring the adjusted pattern onto my actual fabric that I will be using to make this. I should have probably done this on the lining first, but no, I took a big leap and just put it right onto the expensive green wool. And now to sew everything together. First is the leer pipe, and then I flipped it inside out. And then I had to take my giant pile of linen scraps and turn them into enough fabric to cut out the lining. Then I pinned the hood together at the top and the back and front and sewed that up. Then I cut the gores and realized, oh. Why am I like this? After I did my mock-up, basically I thought, oh, I'll make it shorter and I won't make a second mock-up. And then I came to a horrific discovery, which was I had been overconfident and shrunk my pattern too much because I hadn't accounted for the fact that, well, it would have to get over my big head before it got to my skinny neck. So I had to rethink the gore situation and start the gore a little higher than I intended in order to provide room for my head to fit through the neck hole. I think I'm gonna have to make a larger gore. I'm not sure what's going on here. Why? I did line this hood as well because the wool that I had ordered from the Destashed website was pretty thin and I thought it wouldn't really hold its shape without being lined, plus wool makes me a little itchy, so I lined it using some leftover scraps from my lining of my Foundations Reveal garment, which has been dyed using onion skins, and I like the color combination a lot. Right now, I think there's like a 95% chance I look like a medieval chicken. Also, for some reason, the face hole ended up really small, and I don't think accurately small, although maybe it just seemed too small because the hood is very wide this way, but not this way. And so I ended up putting a tiny gore in the chin area to allow my face to see out. frog now. Because I want to look like a pumpkin. I don't know, I'll iron it. I definitely prefer to wear the hood folded back a little bit, which, you know, I've seen in a lot of pictures. Now I am hand sewing all of the outside seams. I am doing a whip stitch on the gores, which is how I have seen it done from the examples. The way to do this is to fold over the hood about a quarter to a half of an inch and then put it on top of the gore. So the gore isn't actually folded over, just the top, and then I do a whip stitch to secure it down. Because I lined it, I didn't actually fell down the inside seams, so I did running stitches along those seam edges where it would have been felled to give it the same sort of appearance. Then I cut the lining a little shorter than the outer layer and pinned the fashion fabric of the outside down all around the edge of the neck opening. Then I did stab stitches to create a decorative hem on the bottom. Somebody wanted to help, and I think he thought I was making a bed for him. The stab stitches are basically just running stitches. I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out overall. I definitely want to try making a bunch of the different hood patterns in this book and seeing the differences in how they come out. There's a lot of variance on kind of the neck, and in my mock-up the leer pipe was definitely too heavy because the fabric I used in the mock-up is a lot thicker than this fabric. I kind of prefer this, but I could see wanting the very thick fabric if you lived somewhere that was actually cold. I also didn't mimic the exact construction method as depicted in this book because I lined it, and so I actually sewed them right sides together around the face hole and then flipped it inside out, and so there isn't the same sort of I don't think that's how they would have done it around the face, but it did make it quicker for me. And I did a bunch of stab stitching around the neckline as well as around the face opening. And I will show you here how I finished off the edge of the inside with using some extra strings. I think that is what I'm seeing in the beginning of this book. Of course, the hood is not the complete endeavor for this cottagecore pumpkin outfit, and be sure to hit the subscribe button so you can tune in next time for the orange kirtle, which you can see me wearing here, and I really like the fit of it, although it's a little short, and you'll have to see what exactly happened by tuning into that episode. And now for the reveal footage. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next Sunday for my next big project video. And I'll see you Tuesday, if you hit the subscribe button, for another Technique Tuesday. Thanks. See you. Oh, and be sure to hit the like button, because I think that helps the algorithm or something. And if you want, follow me on Instagram at gabrielle.westwood.